I always like to start at the beginning. How did Lords of the Opium Church get formed?
Formed with me and Rob. He's not with us right now, but in the meeting, he is with us on this planet. I met him. He works at a recording studio in Edmonton, physics lab recording studio. And I went in to record with a project that I was involved with prior, and worked with him a little bit on some different stuff. The other project that I was in kind of fell through. I got a message from Rob, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing with some of those songs, some of that material? You want to start a band?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, let's do it."
Nice.
That's how that kind of happened. In a nutshell, you know.
What are some of my favorite horror movies? Stuff that you felt like influenced you when you wrote this?
For me, it's like some of the old classics, of course, like The Exorcist. You know, I've been really into the A24 stuff. I don't know if like Midsommar's super trippy. Newer movies, but I feel like a lot of them have sort of a old school terrifying vibe.
A lot of the old stuff, like the old classics, like Jason and Freddy and all that kind of stuff.
Outside of Sabbath, who are some really big influences for you guys? People that, inspired you to want to be in a band, as well as kind of helped hone your sound just by their influence?
Well, some of the stuff that I'm into now is like Elephant Tree, Weedpecker, just these real experimental bands that have really unique droney sound. But growing up, I mean, a lot of it for me was the classics too, a lot of punk rock as well. Bill McKenzie's, those guys are thrown into the mix. Eddie and I are both from Newfoundland, so there's a whole lot of Celtic stuff going on there. So even a lot of traditional music, like some of the runs and scales and everything. Deep Purple, of course. Yeah. Truck Fighters, Mastodon, all sorts of stuff, man.
Probably like in this genre, I definitely Caius, I was huge into them. The Lowrider and Truck Fighters, I was big into them too over the years. Sabbath.
Do you have a lot of input into the mix, or do you guys have an engineer that you kind of trust with that?
It's kind of a cool story that bases around the studio that I met Rob in. He did all the tracking. Rob tracks everything, and he does a lot of work on the mixing as well. We had another bass player at one point named Terry Powlett, and he actually owns the studio, and he went down, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, he went down in the States and worked with some people who were working on the Tools albums and kind of shadowed a lot of that. So Terry is mostly the mastermind when it comes to the mix. He's just a genius. I can't say enough about how he's done that. But yeah, a lot of it comes from albums that we like. I really enjoyed the mix on Sabbath's 13 album. I thought that, Rick Rubin, and all those guys, obviously done a really good job. So we're kind of trying to follow somewhat down that avenue, if at all possible,
So I love tour stories. Giant fan of tour stories. Everybody's got at least one really good one of something really weird that happened on the road.
Okay, so I used to play in a few different bands. So one of the old bands that I played in, we were playing around Alberta, and we were doing it in a couple different cities, just a little mini tour kind of thing. And we played in this city called Red Deer, Alberta. And there was a venue called the Vat. It's somewhat of a smaller venue, but it's a super cool place. I don't know if it's still super active. I heard something about them taking over new management or something. Either way, we went there one time. We got there relatively early. We were playing with a band called Johnny Two Fingers and the Deformities. They're a super awesome band too. Shout out. So we got there early. We did the sound check, and we figured we were going to go get something to eat. So there wasn't really much around that venue at that particular time. We were just going to hoof it, and we found a gas station just kind of up the street. So me and my old band members, we were walking up the road, and we were waiting at a crosswalk to head over to this gas station to get a couple of new computes or whatever, And these young guys came up, and there was, I think, 4 or 5 of them. classic metalheads. It looked like a scene from like Detroit Rock City or something. Like they were just like ready to party, like younger guys, right? And I think it was like a Friday night or something or whatever before the show started. So we were waiting there and we were talking to him, making small talk. Yeah, we're here, stoked for the show tonight. He's like, yeah, man, we are too. Like, it's gonna be really cool. We didn't tell him we were playing in the band. We're just an opening act or whatever, right? So, yeah, man, it's gonna be a good night. Cool. So the crosswalk goes ahead. We go over. We get our thing. A couple Slim Jims or whatever. Shout out, I guess. We come back. We go down to the venue. More people are coming in. Everybody's having a good time. Finally, I think we were the second band on the bill. I think there was a band and then us and then Johnny Two Fingers. So we played our set and it was super fun. Certainly I saw these kids, these guys, younger guys, not kids, but these younger guys, and they're right up front of the stage. And they're just like tripping. I can tell they're starting to go to a different planet or something, So yeah, the show went really cool and it was a good response and everything. After the set, I was loading out some of my gear. Well, the other band was getting ready to set up. And one of the guys came out and he was like, dude, man, you look like a werewolf, man. You're like tripping out or something, man. Like what? You like shapeshifting or something, man? And I was like, I just laughed at this guy, right? And he was like, yeah. We took a pile of acid, man, and just like, I don't know, man, this is like crazy, man. And he basically did like a 360 and then booked it off into the parking lot somewhere. And I was like, it was a good time. I don't know. Everybody had a good time. And it was fun.
But so how is the writing process now? Because obviously you're not recycling songs now. So how has that kind of changed for you guys?
I think everybody still has something pretty unique that we bring to the table, Everybody kind of takes a hand in doing the lyric writing and all that. Like on the first record, I had a lot of riffs that I did, have kind of in my back pocket from other projects and just never really used them. And just stuff that I had, like saved on my phone and just shit that I was humming to myself and stuff like that. But like I said, we all kind of take from different genres. It really is kind of a cool thing for the writing process because, like I know with Rob, like his drumming style is primarily like a punk rock background. So if I'll send him a riff or Eddie will come up with something and send a riff, the drum beats that he comes up with is something that me personally, I wouldn't even think of that being over that riff, and then it changes the context of the riff and of the song, So the songwriting process right now has been pretty good. Everything is flowing, My sort of motto is that if something doesn't really work and it doesn't really flow naturally, then there's no sense of getting hung up on it, If we have parts of a song or something is kind of going, but then everybody's just really wrapping their head around like, well, maybe it should go this way, and then we try that, and it doesn't really work. Let's try something else. And if we do that a few times, it's like, okay, well, let's just table that, and we can come back to it at a different time, maybe on a different record, maybe never, I don't know, and just try something else. So just kind of whatever flows has been my motto. Wise words from somebody that we're working with that we can't quite say anything about yet, but you pretty much have your whole life to write your first record. There's no real time restraint. There's no time limit, I should say, to put that out. You have your whole life to come up with that stuff. It's what you do in between your first record and then your second record, or your second and your third. That changes things and makes it a little different because you don't want to sound too much the same, but at the same time, you don't want to steer away too far. And if you have a sound, that's maybe a little unique, which is kind of hard nowadays because there's so many good bands and artists and everything that it's kind of difficult to find a sound,
I've never heard your record, and I ask you, what does your band sound like?
The Ramones and Motorhead were hanging out together at a Black Sabbath concert, and then everybody had a couple drinks and a couple puffs, and ended up partying backstage with Motorhead. And then somehow there was an after party at Matt Pike's house.
What are you listening to right now? What's on your turntable or in your CD player? What are you listening to right now?
I was just watching the Led Zeppelin DVD here a lot lately, and some Monster Magnet. What's it?
Oh, okay. So there's a band that I found on this Discover Weekly. It's called Gin Lady, and they're out of Sweden. I don't know if you've ever heard of these guys. They're called Flower People, and that's the one that popped up, and it fucking blew my mind. It's like it sounds like old school, just kind of straight rock and roll, but it's got like a hint of like a culty, fucking Midsummer feel. Like the album cover is kind of like that, you know, and that's super cool. The Exorcist GBG is another band, that I found. Super cool. Moon Duo, they did a crazy cover of Planet Caravan, and it just like brings you to another planet in a caravan.
So Ian Blurton is another good artist too. I'm from Ontario. He's a wicked album, Future Now, and Hippie Death Cult.
I met the drummer of Hippie Death Cult. My old band played the Vantopia Festival here in Alberta a couple years ago, and Ape Machine were on the bill. And I was a big fan of those guys for a long time. They're still in my rotation.
They're awesome, man. Daily,
yeah. I don't know, you hear these things where some people say, oh, rock and roll's dying and all that. I beg to differ.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's coming up next? You guys have a tour coming up, anything like that? You going to be out on the road at all?
Things are kind of opening up, but kind of not, kind of still restricted. So it's been kind of weird. We were talking about starting to plan some tours. There's nothing like totally confirmed yet. We've just been focusing on writing a second album, getting that out, and we do have some announcements to make eventually when we can about that. And really, we've just been focused on writing new material.
All right. Well, before we go, anything you guys want to say to anybody that's watching? I know you said you got some announcements you can't drop yet. Anything you do want to say?
Follow us on social media, man. We're pretty much everywhere. We answer all the messages. Not that we're getting swarmed or anything. We talk to everybody, man. We love the feedback. You know, we got a couple music videos out. Just check it out. Follow us. Send us a message, man. We're more than happy to have a chat, and we appreciate it. We appreciate all the love, man.